can start.
Hey.
We don't have quite many people now, but I think people are arriving, but we are starting now, I think, because it's 10 ready. So the first, as you know, the days of Pärnu contemporary music also includes kind of symposium, which usually finishes these days, and this year it's a great honor to introduce Esa Lilja from University of Helsinki, who is talking about heavy metal music mostly today and tomorrow, and maybe you are the best person to introduce yourself and your studies and your interests and maybe your book yourself. So I would maybe just you all have the program. You see that in our first session we have 3 presentations. First, the presentation by Esa Lilja takes about an hour. Then Janika Bell is talking about phrase rhythm in Bindero's songs, and finally Martin Steinrück's presentation. Well, maybe you will introduce the presentation. It's a performance rather than, okay. And then approximately at 1 o'clock we have a lunch. Well, the first presentation is then by Esa Lilja. Maybe, if it's possible, just please introduce yourself and then tell what is your first presentation about.
All right, great. Thank you, and thanks, Keri, very much for the invitation here. And I'm very glad you told me in the car what is this occasion. So now I know a bit more about this. Yes, just briefly about my background. I have studied both classical music and popular music in Helsinki, and I'm a composer and musician in both classical and popular stuff. And I did my PhD on musicology some 6-7 years ago in Helsinki. It was about music theory, music analysis, and heavy metal, basically. Well, first of all, I need to say that after writing the book about classic heavy metal, I have rarely listened to it anymore, because as you know, when you go pretty deep into some things, you just tend to get enough. But nowadays I keep getting invitations to speak about heavy metal. These days at this moment, I mostly listen to baroque music. Actually, I'm looking for Rameau's theories in the 18th century and so on. But anyway, it's always fun to come back to this subject. And Keri asked me to speak about words and how they relate to heavy metal. It's something that I haven't done an extensive study, because mainly I have been focused on musical structure, basically. So for me, this is also a bit a new angle for heavy metal research. And these are mainly some ideas. There are some theoretical concepts on the background which I will question, and hopefully you as well. So at any point, if you have any questions or comments, please interrupt me and just ask right away. There's so little number of people here. I think we have just discuss in a relaxed way. Yes. Okay. Let's see what I have here. Can you see that all right?
More or less, yes.
Okay, all right. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this diagram, but just to get you oriented.
Esa, you have a pointer too. Here, yes.
Okay.
Go there.
Please. Yeah, great.
Just a moment. It can come.
Okay, very good. All right, so what I call the classic era or traditional is roughly from the early 70s to the mid 80s.
Like trying to make it.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we got much better. Very good, thank you. All right, where was I? All right. Here, as we can see, heavy metal as a music draws from really various kinds of musical styles. And here are only some of the popular styles that have been in the background of classic heavy metal, which for me means heavy metal from roughly from the 1970s to the mid 80s. And in the mid 80s here, later, there was a sort of a larger fragmentation in style where we had sort of more pop-oriented light stuff on the other hand, and the more and more extreme stuff on the other side. And then, however, this traditional stream has never stopped to exist in a sense. And musically speaking, for me, this has been always the most interesting stuff. To make it short, this light metal is many times musically really simple, whereas the extreme metal is, as it says, it's extreme. It's more and more speed, more and more distortion, and the, how do I say in a polite way, for me, musically not so extremely interesting. You may say, maybe we listen to some of that as well. But anyway, so what I'm talking about is this, and mainly European. Actually, there's a difference between American heavy metal and European heavy metal in general, in classic stuff. Whereas American heavy metal has its roots much more in punk and garage rock, simple heavy blues rock, basically. Whereas European heavy metal has its roots. It's really close to, let's say, art rock or progressive rock, if we are talking about the early 70s and so on. So the songs are rather complex and, well, can be relatively complex compared to American stuff or that sort of thing. Right, okay. Right, in case you didn't know, there's some central musical characteristics of heavy metal. Loud volumes and strong and often high-pitched vocals, virtuosity and technical skill. Of course, always they are relative things, but they tend to have a central role in each period of its history. And of course, guitar distortion, extremely important. You couldn't think of heavy metal without distorted guitars. Last time I was in Tallinn in Estonian Musicological Society meeting, I talked about power chords and their acoustics a bit more. So today there's a danger if I start to speak about guitar distortion. You have to stop me because I won't otherwise. Well, all right. And then relative complexity. All right. Of course, varies, as I said, varies from subgenre to another. But what is, I think, common in all styles of heavy metal is some sort of power and control. Yes. Powerful expression, but still in a controlled way, more or less. Right. Yeah. When I thought I gave my initial title of this presentation to Kerry, saying to what extent words affect musical structure in heavy metal. In the process of writing this stuff here, I came to think that I certainly need to talk something about how heavy metal music is generally composed, because lyrics as such are rarely the starting point to writing the music. Because mostly, in my experience and so on, the music is written by separately, maybe by someone else, and the lyrics are then attached to that. That's more or less the way that it works. So there are not, generally speaking, many examples where the lyrics and the music are sort of taught to make that sort of compositional whole, such as, let's say, Schubert's Lieds or something like that. So really, what do we can make up of this? I think in general, words are important, but maybe not in the sense of a whole narrative or interaction with the music, such as in Schubert or like that, but to create some sort of general atmospheres to describe the whole situation or whatever. And much of this I am going to base on that idea. Please say if you disagree. Okay. So I already said more or less that. So they do, but in a form of lyrical and conceptual themes that sometimes are and sometimes are not supported with general atmosphere of a composition. Right. Here are some atmospheres. I'll come back to these later. I rarely have a presentation without Beatles. Okay, and just to make this more scientific, I chose 6 compilation or live albums that are classics in this in this field, containing 83 songs in total. And I looked at the themes in these words and themes. Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, and Deep Purple from the early 70s. Then Judas Priest, Motorhead, and Iron Maiden from the early 80s, late 70s. Basically, these three last ones belong to a sub-category of heavy metal called a new wave of British heavy metal. I don't know if you have heard that one. But maybe I will come back to that first. Okay. Okay. And then I have here some ways of categorizing heavy metal song themes. And this is the really stereotypical easy way out that you hear all the time, that the heavy metal or rock and roll or whatever, it's about sex, drugs and rock and roll. Right. And someone has translated this into three main topics, which are women, intoxication, and transportation, which should occur in most of the lyrics. Then to our first example. Here's only two verses of the Deep Purple's Highway Star. Do you know this piece, actually? Well, soon you will. And as you can see, the lyrics seem to abide pretty well to what has said before. Nobody's gonna take my car, transportation, and the first verse is about the guy's car, basically. And verse 2, nobody's gonna take my girl. Okay, there's women, transportation and women. There's no drugs, unfortunately, in this one. Right, let's see how the internet says. Yes. Sorry, I cannot interrupt before that drum break. I'm a drummer myself, actually. All right. Very stereotypical in this sense. But then, a bit of statistics. I counted in how many songs of the research material these themes occur, and only roughly 50%, which is not much regarding the stereotype that you would expect these to be in every song in. Yeah. So a lot of themes is missing. For instance, religion, fantasy, politics, history, which are highly important actually in 70s and 80s heavy metal. And this Motorhead, I needed to include it here because, as you might have heard, Lemmy just died. This lead singer, bass player, died at the age of 70 in this Christmas, so I just needed to include him in this presentation. But this last one, general machismo without, let's say, sex and drugs and rock and roll, is basically what Motorhead is conceptually in every song. They don't fit to, not always speaking about women or intoxication or transportation, but the general attitude of everything basically they do, it can put under this last one here. So it's a sort of a, Motorhead is sort of a chapter of its own in this material I'm presenting today. Right. Okay, because the stereotype didn't work, here's a bit more academic approach to categorizing heavy metal themes. It's from an American sociologist, Dina Weinstein, who has used this dichotomy or dualism, Dionysian versus chaotic, in this. The Dionysian experience celebrates the vital forces of life through various forms of ecstasy, embodied in the unholy trinity of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, whereas themes of chaos cover strong emotional involvement that challenges the order and hegemony of everyday life, monsters, underworld and hell, grotesque and horrifying disaster, mayhem, carnage, injustice, death, and rebellion. Rather cheerful. And Weinstein is this is a drastic simplification. If you remember this diagram, what Weinstein is actually talking about is the two extremes, the light stuff and the extreme stuff, and forgetting the middle road here almost altogether. Just short examples, which are more than clear. Okay. Yep. And actually, musically speaking, nothing much else is happening there. Well, in the chorus, they say, girls, girls, girls. Then the chaotic stuff, fitting nicely to Weinstein's dualism. Oh. It's ugly stuff. Right, okay, thank you, Mr. Battery. Right, we just have to take this Swedish guy's word that he is talking about something monsters or underworld and hell. Of course, we cannot understand anything he is saying, but that's a part of this particular style. However, we are still missing religion. All right, in a sense, in the extreme stuff, they deal with religion or anti-religious themes, but fantasy, politics, society, history, and so on are still missing. Then I went through, tried to be a bit more systematic and look at the themes of the 83 pieces of music here. The small letters, I'll explain it shortly. O is for occult, F fantasy, P or PO, politics, W, women, SF, science fiction, and so on. Mm. So we have a really different kind of themes here. So for Black Sabbath, there's 2 about women, 2 about intoxication, very little, only 2 about occult, although popularly they are known about that stuff, but really there's not so much that stuff in their music or lyrics. Fantasy, politics, society, personal stuff fitting not into any of these categories. Then Led Zeppelin, women, fantasy, history, general atmosphere, without any sort of message to one way or another. And Deep Purple, women, intoxication, not very much of those themselves. And Judas Priest seems to be most interested in history, politics, and society, basically. Whereas Motorhead, well, as said, general machismo, with most parts of intoxication, women, and transportation. And Iron Maiden, fantasy, religion, politics, and history, basically. So there's not so much sex and drugs and rock and roll. How I have handled this matter in my book actually was something towards these lines. I don't know if this is a very good slide, but it looks funny. So I just thought I put it right here. For me, I see heavy metal or early heavy metal as a cultural sort of follow-up to hippie era, basically, more or less, both thematically and musically speaking, where we have these themes: love, peace, drugs, obviously, mystics, and musical styles that are not actually, at first they may seem to be really far away, but I don't think they are. So in hippie love we also may have hate, not so much actually in the early stuff, if we don't count this like of extreme things. Love and despair, quite normal human things actually here. And peace, war, including politics in a sense that if hippies were sort of hoping for a peaceful world and so on, maybe the early heavy metal response to that was more frustrated or something like that. That things didn't go so well that they should have done. Then psychedelia, surrealism, and mysticism. Difficult word. It's straight from the hippie New Age stuff and so on. And this could include all kind of religions, mythology, fantasy, science fiction, horror, and so on. And then, of course, musical style. I'll come back to this. No, I go it through now. I think one of the most important musical styles at least for European heavy metal, has been the psychedelic rock, which was unlike some other types of rock music. It wasn't dance music. It was experience aimed to your brain, not to your legs, basically. And this applies to much heavy metal, much early stuff at least. But creating certain type of atmosphere is the central thing. So it's a musical experience or mental experience, not so much, well, not primarily a physical thing. Okay. It's a nice example. So next I will have some examples of different kind of atmospheres that I think fall into some of these categories or many of them. Right. It's great. Zeppelin's No Quarter, which it's about history, about Vikings. Okay, it's about transportation. There are boats, and then there's a sort of mythical or mystical atmosphere in general. I so hate to interrupt these classics. Right. Anyway, musically speaking, just a quick comment. I like the way this is structured in melodically and harmonically. There's vocals in the verse and in this pre-chorus. Vocals apply C-sharp natural pentatonic without major or minor third. All the time, basically the same melody up and down. And with harmony, with different chords, you can have really easily a drastic modal change by using these chords. And at the same time, the top note of the lyrics forms plus 11th with the chord. So with little gestures, you may create the quite huge difference. Well, just a small point here. From natural to Aeolian and Phrygian modes. Yep. All right. Then the next one. Are there more or less clear examples on verbal themes and atmosphere? I'll get to horror movies a bit later. Now, back to hippies and peace and so on. If hippies wanted peace or yearn for it, maybe this Black Sabbath stuff has a lot of this kind of apocalyptic visions. It didn't go so well after all type of things. We can listen to shortly. Of course, Black Sabbath's War Pigs is a clear example on commenting on Vietnam War and etc. But I always play that one, so I thought playing something else, Electric Funeral. It's one about atom holocaust or atom disaster, atom war. Yeah, good so. So much of this is not actually not sex and drugs and rock and roll, but clear, plain politics and worried. cheerful. Right. Black Sabbath has popularly claimed or attached to occult and Satan worshippers and that sort of thing. But originally, well, they didn't have anything to do with that kind of stuff. The whole concept is taken from horror movies and literature, basically. The bass player and the lyricist of the band was a huge horror movie fan, and one time he thought that when seen walking out from the movie that, wow, I want to do that kind of horror music. And that's basically the concept, Black Sabbath. Let's hear this. Not all of it, but some parts. Sorry, guys. And this is always easy. I'm sort of trying to wrap this up in these few minutes I still have spent. So I'm skipping some parts. Right. Orientalism or pseudo-Orientalism is something that is actually really easy to do, something that is for us Westerners to create something that sounds like mystical East or something like that. It has been done many times in music history. This third era being not very. Can you see? Okay. There should be a picture there, but all right. No, not very clear. I just show you one example about where and how Oriental stuff has been incorporated in both lyrics and music. Okay, the song is entitled Egypt, but these lyrics could be anywhere basically. But with with this song title and this some musical devices, you can think to attach and locate these to ancient Egypt, maybe in the time of pharaohs and so on. Musically speaking, it starts with a Hijaz mode, it's an Arab mode, with a synthesizer that resembles zurna, an instrument which is used in Egypt and Middle East, pretty much like oboe sounding thing. Then we have a simple D minor pentatonic to the Aeolian with a synthesizer, again 80s synthesizer, not very developed, but somewhat resembles Japanese koto, nothing to do with Egypt, but Orient, yes. And then we have a guitar riff on the Hungarian minor, sometimes also attached to Oriental colors. All right. Sorry. I take the hope I can get. Oh. Okay, I take it here. I didn't want it. Okay. Right. All right. I should be stopping around right now, I think. All right. I talk about this tomorrow, I think. Yes. Just merciful. Yes, but well, I said this already, but I think the main point in words and music in heavy metal, or the collaboration or interaction, is really to create general atmospheres, not so much perhaps telling stories. It's in general. No. So, if you have something to say, I would be happy to hear. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, are there any comments or questions? Well, actually, I have one.
Yes, great.
Well, because you were rather critical about this dichotomy
yeah.
of
Yes.
Dionysian and chaotic.
Yes.
But actually, when listening to these examples, it seems to me that most of these examples you played,
Yes.
as your last examples, actually can be categorized
Right.
as a manifestation of chaos. Of course,
Right.
it has its different forms in politics, in
Yeah.
kind of a magical oriental kind of context or whatever. But basically, it seems that what you were just doing is you just provided many subtopics in which
yes.
these dichotomy can manifest
Yes.
itself. But basically, actually, your talk were not so much against it. Well,
yes,
if
I
I
understand,
was
yes.
looking at the
Yes.
material,
Yes.
it was not so much against it because this chaotic and Dionysian,
Yes. Yes.
they are more general concepts than politics, history, Orientalism, which
course.
can be, I mean, chaos can
Yes.
manifest itself in different forms. You are not able to control yourself, or you are under some supernatural power or whatever.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
maybe-
Yeah, actually, you are right, and I'm really glad that you pointed that out. Maybe the way Weinstein uses it, or the way I have felt that Weinstein uses it, is in a context that are rather destructive. In a sense, like this battery example, and so on, has rather cheerful titles such as, let's see, as you can see here, it's type of, well, storm of damnation, Hades, Reaper, necromancy, sacrifice, in conspiracy with Satan, Armageddon, race to the dead, and war, which is the most pleasant of all of these categories, really cheerful things. So I think what is, maybe it's my fault, but I think in Weinstein's thing it's more attached things like this, or the impression
okay, maybe because I'm not
get
familiar
here.
with the
Yes.
literature, so I
Yes.
actually
Yeah.
but as you presented it, it just seemed to. But what would be interesting, I think, would be this, as you say, that the central concept or central ideas behind heavy metal music is power and control, but it seems that it's not just about power and about control,
Yes.
but rather you are not sure whether you can actually control this power or not. It's always it's like on the edge.
Yes,
I think
very
this
good.
is the central
Yes.
rather than power and
Very good. I should have put it here,
yes,
like this, or
because you cannot be sure whether you can control these forces or not.
yes.
But of course, this is your intent to control these.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, this was something I intended to write here, but didn't. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, very good, very good.
Okay. Some
Many
more
thanks.
questions or comments
Yeah,
on
yeah,
that?
really, yeah, great, thanks. Anything else, please?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
as I'm a classicist, it's this Weinstein opposition between
Right.
chaotic and
Dionysius.
Dionysiac brought me at once to this Nietzsche's opposition between Apollinaire and Dionysiac. Could it be that Weinstein actually tries to make a differentiate in between this Nietzsche's Dionysiac part?
Mm.
Or is this opposition at all present in his discussion as a background?
Really, I, as well as I have read it, I don't know if she's going that deep in that subject. So, yes, but I would really need to look into that more carefully to be able to answer that.
I
But
have the same feeling that actually Dionysian and Chaos are not contrary in terms of, I mean, both are not Apollonic.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
both
that's right.
these are rather different aspects of Dionysian way of, I mean, relating to the words maybe.
These ones.
Both, yes, because I mean they are not oppositions.
Yes,
They can be two
they
different
can be,
categories,
yes.
of course.
Yes,
But they are not opposing categories.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Chaos doesn't exclude
Dionysian.
maybe
Yes.
these extra drugs and rock and roll in
Yes.
a way, because
Ab-
sometimes
absolutely,
you get
yes.
lost the
Yes.
control on
Yes.
these, and then it
Yeah,
can manifest
maybe
itself
what
as a case.
what was disturbing for me about this dualism was that so strict division and so on, which you pointed out really clearly. Maybe the list could be in chaotic would be much better, including all many more types of losing control type of situations than it's listed here. So please.
Martin?
I'm a classicist too. So one question on the metrics. It seemed to me that there always were trocaics. And when the lyrics were actually iambic, they had the tendency to suppress the first syllable.
Mm-hmm.
So is this an ethos, a movement of heavy metal?
Yeah.
Start with a thunder.
Yeah.
Thunder.
Yes, actually, I haven't thought about that very much, but
And not
yeah, but yes, it seems to be a really stereotypical thing to do, and many times, yes, maybe you said it already, but many times the singing won't start on the first beat, but on the second beat. In the land of, yeah, not in the strong beats, so to speak, but the second. Could be also that because the musical volumes and distorted guitars are so forceful, basically, and they are doing the first beat. So it might be musically or compositionally speaking wise to not to start at the same time. but to create some rhythmic counterpoint in that sense, that you get heard and create a dialogue between the music and lyrics, which is much heavy metal is about a dialogue between guitar riffs and the vocal melodies, basically. Not equally important. Yes.
You are talking about connections of word text and atmosphere, and you talk in heavy rock and in Schubert. What actually is the difference? I don't understand.
I was trying to describe that if let's say that to my knowledge and impression, when something such as Schubert's leads were composed, I think the every word, or at least every sentence, were looked at really carefully, and how do I compose this line of text? How do I translate this to music? That was what I was meaning about
Schubert.
Schubert.
Difference? Or?
Yes, well, I don't think that that is done so much in heavy metal, that you think carefully every line of text and try to compose it, try to write music accordingly to the text. That was, sorry if I don't explain it very clearly, but in heavy metal, to my knowledge, the way of doing things is just the opposite. Mainly, you first write the music, or instrumental parts, or vocal melodies even, and then bring the text afterwards to already written music.
Thinking, which we have in 19th century music. I mean, start with the words and actually everything comes out.
Yes.
Especially Wagner is perhaps the extreme example.
I
mean,
of course,
even
much
better than
yes.
Schubert.
Absolutely, much better.
Everything
Yes,
comes
thanks.
out of the structure of words, and the musical structure is but here it's the opposite. I mean, the words are fitted into the structure already available. And these structures are more abstract structures, I mean blues schemes, everything else.
And it is methodologically so. So it is
not always, of course. Not always, but let's say usually. You really well. Tomorrow I have different examples actually. Just the opposite thing, with which King Diamond is doing just differently, almost everything. But in general, I would dare to say that you tend to write music first and then bring the lyrics there, rather than try to compose the lyrics. Yes.
So I understand first are also this rhythmical structure, and then words are coming in this structure, in this rhythmical structure.
Yes.
Or
Pretty much so. Because if you have a guitar riff which has a distinct rhythm, then of course to fit lyrics or vocals there, you have to at least think a way of how to do it. So I would dare to say that guitar riffs and the background, the music, it's not background music, but the instrumental parts dictate a lot of compositional things in this stuff.
Okay, thank you. I think we have to go on with our next
Okay,
presentation now, but
thank you.
again.
Thank
And
you.